Hello, everyone. How are you? I hope you're having a nice morning, afternoon, evening. I don't know which part of the world you're joining. So we are here in the Catalyzing Change Week from the Catalyst Now. We are going to start the talk, Gender Transformative Education as a Tool to Combat the Climate Crisis. Here with me are Bruna, me, Lucero Rodriguez, Isabella Friguedo, Safar Alexander, Grace Mwambira, and Sarah Mu. Okay. Before we get started with the session, I will give the floor to Hugo Bordas from the Catalyst Now, if you want to introduce a little bit of your organization. Thank you.
Hi everyone, thank you so much for being here today. So my name is Hugo Bordas. I am Brazilian, but I'm based in Amsterdam in the Netherlands, and I'm Lusophone Chapters Coordinator for Catalyst Now. So working with our members, we have around 300 members in the Lusophone world, and it's a beautiful movement of civil society, social innovators, governments, and even private companies that work on systematic change and especially social innovation, inclusive social innovation. And our goal is to accelerate progress towards achieving the Sustainable Development Goals. And before we used to be called Catalyst 2030, but we've been through a big rebranding because we don't want to put a date on our action and we want to do change now. So it's beautiful to be here with longtime partners in Poder Clima. I used to be a part of Poder Clima back in the day with Renata. And yeah, it's great to be here. Thank you so much. And back to you, Lucero.
Awesome. Great presentation, Hugo. Thank you. So I will go ahead and introduce properly to the participants from our webinar today. So we have Bruna Almeida. Bruna is a project management at Empodera Clima. She's passionate about the intersection of food systems, gender equality, and international cooperation, and has worked with international organizations, development cooperation agencies, multilateral discussion forums, and academic initiatives, contributing to initiatives on climate action, sustainable development, and multilateral cooperation. Then, you had me. I'm an Argentinian lawyer and Master of International Affairs, a Fulbright Fellow, and co-founder of Youth Alumninea. I'm currently a public servant at the Ministry of Economy of Formosa, and I have been in Empodera Clima since 2022, supporting different projects like Empodera Clima nas Escolas and Mulheres pela Resiliencia Climática. And now I'm currently in the institutional affairs team. Then we have Isabella Frigueto, as well in Empodera. She's a Brazilian lawyer and philosopher. She's passionate about public service, social justice, and climate education. And currently she leads the project Empodera Clima nas Escolas, which translation is Empodera Clima in the School in Brazil. Then we have Safar Alexander, a rockstar. She's a young feminist activist from Trinidad and Tobago, and the Community Operations and Resource Mobilization Lead of Transformative Education, a network of young-led organizations hosted by the United Nations Girls' Education Initiative. Then we have Grace Mwambira, founder of and executive director of Girls Evolve, a woman-led organization based in Rumfi, Malawi, that empowers women and girls in marginalized communities through climate action, education, sexual and reproductive health, rights, leadership, and economic empowerment. She has a background in material engineering from the University of Science and Technology. She has a background in material engineer, and she's passionate about gender and climate justice. She represents young women voice in rural Malawi in national and regional dialogues. And then finally, we have Sarah Mu. She's a master in international development from the University of East Anglia, researching and advocate at Loughborough University, where she pursues a degree in social science research. She has received the University of Cambridge Improvement Research Community Builder Award, and she has worked across leading child-focused organizations, including UNICEF UK, Shelter the Children, and more. As well, she has been the global panel representative with Plan International and Education Cannot Wait. She is the co-founder of Young in Development and Policy, an initiative that supports young Africans navigating transition from academic study to career in international development and public policy. And we are really happy to be here with you now. And now I'm passing the floor to Sapphire. If you can move the slide, please. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Lucero. Good morning, good day, good evening to everyone who's here in this space with us. It's such a pleasure to be able to share with you about the work of Transform Education and to be in this space with so many really powerful and incredible young activists. I want to say a huge thank you to the Catalyst Now team as well as the incredible team at Infodera for convening us all here today. But today, though, I'm going to be introducing you to Transform Education, which, as Lucero would have mentioned in the opening, is a network of young feminists hosted by Ungai. So just to kind of get a feel of folks' understanding, have y'all heard the term gender transformative education before? Can I get a thumbs up or a thumbs down in the chat? I'm seeing some hearts. I'm gonna assume the hearts mean yes. So we have some GTE experts in the room. Okay, but someone is saying no. Well, that's excellent because I have a definition for you that goes next. So go to the next slide, please. Amazing. So, gender transformative education is learning to understand, recognize, and challenge root causes of gender inequality and injustice. The transformation part is in people's attitudes, beliefs, and behaviors, and in the education system, from gender unequal to equal. GTE, that's how we call it, seeks to utilize all parts of an education system, from policies to pedagogies to community engagement to transform stereotypes, attitudes, norms, and practices. Our goal with gender transformative education is a world in which a person's gender does not impact their access to power, resources, and opportunities. The term gender transformative assumes an intersectional understanding of gender. And so I think many of us would have had the experience growing up of hearing terms in school like girls are to be seen and not heard, or girls are only able to access certain types of education. Or maybe we might have heard in our experience that girls are meant to take care of the home and take care of those within the household, do the dishes and do the chores. These are really harmful gender norms and stereotypes that are perpetuated within our societies that we aim to dismantle through gender transformative education. Next slide, please. So our network, TE or Transform Education, is a coalition of young feminist-led networks working to achieve gender equality in and through education. We are hosted or incubated by UNGAI, which is the United Nations Girls Education Initiative. We are currently the only one and only feminist youth-led coalition in the entire education sector. And we are composed of organizations from around the globe. So we have organizations within the African continent, in North America, we have folks in Brazil, folks in Zimbabwe, Malawi, etc. We have over 85 members spanning more than 60 organizations from 35 countries, which is a big deal. And one of the projects that we're most excited to be working on is called Education Shifts Power, because as we know, finding financing for young feminist organizations can be extremely difficult despite the important and transformative work that we do. So we work together with partners, including Plan International, Frida, Chefs, and Gufasha Girls Foundation to create Education Shifts Power, which is a resource mobilization tool or a grant program that is co-created by young feminists and run through a participatory youth-led grant-making mechanism, which is a fancy way of saying that the young people who are part of the system get to also inform the way that it works. And we provide small grants to registered and unregistered organizations to go into their community and to do the work that they need to promote gender equality. One of the projects that we're really excited to have supported is actually Empathetic Clima's project, which you'll probably hear as our speakers talk throughout the rest of the session. Next slide, please. So I wanted to share a few images and examples and do a really quick overview of some of the folks that we work with. So this is Joanne Kimbabas in the yellow jacket, and she runs Gufasha Girls Foundation, which is an organization based in Uganda that works to end child marriage through education and community activities. Next slide, please. Movimiento por Ser Niña is another organization that we work with based in Ecuador that promotes girls' rights to education through community building activities, resource mobilization, etc. And so they're really doing a lot of really great work as well on violence prevention and ending school-related gender-based violence. Next slide, please. Last but certainly not least, we have Empathetic Clima, one of our folks who have been a part of this cohort of ESP, and I think this is taken from your Empoderar Nossas Escolas program. which is one of some of the programs that y'all have done in schools in Brazil. So these are just some of the folks that we work with through our ESP program. Next slide, please. So in addition to resource mobilization and just building a network of community care and support, we also understand that knowledge production and having spaces where young feminist knowledge is upheld, promoted, and is accessible is something that's really, really important. So the following materials have been developed by the members of our network of young feminist education activists, and it represents powerful contributions to feminist thought leadership grounded in lived experience, collective organizing, and a commitment to reimagining education through a gender-just lens. It reflects intersectional, community-rooted perspectives and offers really critical insights that are shaping the future of education and social justice. So here you can see our leading change report, which was done in collaboration with the University of Windsor, our comic book, which is something that's really exciting, called Together in Solidarity, that we launched this year, that explains how our network works and some of our key thematic areas. And then last but not least is the Achieving Gender Transformative Education tool, which has our power map in it, which is a really cool tool that we use to understand who holds the power within education systems, who our allies are, and who our enemies are within the education system. So it is a really great landscaping tool to understand where power lies within education systems. So these are just some of our resources that you can access on our website. You can see it at the top there, Unguy, and then Transform Education. Last slide, please. So if you like what you've heard and you're also really passionate about achieving gender equality in and through education, I would really encourage you to follow us on Instagram and to check out our resources on our website to learn more about how you can get involved in your individual context to promote gender transformative education. Thanks so much, everyone. And back over to you, Lucero.
Great, awesome. Thank you so much for all the support so far. And I'm really excited to hear more about all other Transform Education members that are here with us in this webinar. So now I'm passing the floor to Bruna so she can talk a little bit more about Empodera. Here you have.
Hello, everyone. Thank you so much, Lucero, and thank you so much, everyone, for having me here. It's a pleasure to be representing Empodera, that is a youth and women-led organization based in Brazil that works at the intersection of gender equality, climate education, and global advocacy. And we were founded over 6 years ago with one single but very powerful conviction that there is no effective climate action without gender equality. Next slide, please. So climate change is not gender neutral. It acts as a risk multiplier, deepening existing inequalities and making women and girls in the global south disproportionately vulnerable. So out of every 5 people displaced by climate-related disasters are women. Women and children are 14 times more likely to die during those events. And in spite of being in the front line of the climate crisis, women remain vastly underrepresented in decision-making spaces. So this is why we exist. Next slide, please. If you see here, we have some stats about past climate conferences that in 2009, 30% of the national delegations were made by women. And in 2021, 38% of these national delegations were made by women. This is a progress, but it's a very slow one. And we need to see this going faster. Next slide, please. And when we look at the heads of national delegations, the situation gets even worse. So in 2009, we had 10% of women heads of national delegations at COPs. And in 2021, we still have only 13% of women delegation as heads of delegations at COPs. And the situation needs to change. Next slide, please. So at Empodera, we work to close this leadership gap to generate systemic change because more women climate leaders means less vulnerability to climate disasters. And next slide, please. It also means more ambitious climate solutions. Next slide. So we're working for 3 main areas of work to make this happen. First, we created a multilingual educational resources platform on gender and climate justice so that learning is inclusive and accessible to everyone, which is really important. Then second, we invest in capacity building for young women from underrepresented communities, helping them design and implement local climate solutions, which is how our programs are are shamed and framed and thought about. And I will speak a bit about them just later on. And third, we engage in advocacy and political incidents, ensuring that young women's voices are not just heard, but integrated into climate decision-making spaces. Next slide, please. So we are very happy today that Empodera Clima has a team of over 50 young leaders across Latin America and the Caribbean. And we have been present at the last 5 UN climate conferences each year, bringing different and new and hopefully each year more young women into these very prestigious spaces, always connecting local realities to global policy making. Next slide, please. So this is a bit about our reach. So we have impacted over 15,000 youth for social media, 50,000 impressions in our website per year. We've been around for 6 years, so we can make our calculations, and this is like 300,000 impressions, over 600 subscribers to our monthly newsletter, and have held speeches and hosted events in high-level climate gender conferences in over 15 countries. Next slide, please. So this is our most interesting part of our work, and what we've been focusing the most in the past year in our programs. So it includes initiatives such as Empoderando pelo Clima, which provides mentorship and seed funding for young women to lead local projects. Empoderando pelo Clima is empowering for the climate in English. Empodera Clima nas Escolas, which Isa will talk a bit more about and will brilliantly explain how this work has been going. It's Empodera Clima in schools and promotes gender transformative climate education in public schools across Brazil, and Women for Climate Resilience that focusing on preparing community leaders to respond to disasters and promote gender just resilience strategies. And these projects have already created tangible impact. We have trained 100 Brazilian women in disaster management and delivered 24 hours of training sessions, developed 300 educational materials on climate change. And among the women who joined our leadership network, the majority of them, 95% even, said that they now feel more prepared to lead their communities during climate disasters. And this is our main goal. It shows that when women and girls are given the tools and knowledge to lead, they don't just protect themselves, they strengthen the resilience of entire communities. Next slide, please. And that's it. Beyond the numbers and recognition, what truly drives us at Empodera is the belief that the power of education and collective action, when young women learn about climate change, from a justice-based perspective, they become the agents of transformation because they understand how it affects their lives, their families, and their livelihoods. And that's what we stand for. We are here to make sure that those most affected by the climate crisis are not only protected, but also leading the solutions with us. So thank you very much. And passing now to Isa to talk a bit about our Empodera Clima in Schools project.
Hello, everyone. I'm Isabella from Empoderando Clima, and I'm very happy to be here today to share with you about one of our main initiatives in Brazil, the project called Empodera Clima nas Escolas, in English, Empodera Clima in Schools. I'm going to be using the Portuguese Empodera Clima nas Escolas. The project is funded by Plan International, which believes in the power of climate education to transform the future. We are also supported by the Canadian organization Fora Network for Change. This project is about bringing climate education to public schools and empowering young people to understand, discuss, and take action to the climate crisis, especially through the lens of gender and climate justice. Next slide, please. Empodera Clima nas Escolas takes climate education workshops to schools in different regions of Brazil. Here in the photos, I chose two cities, São Leopoldo and Recife, but we went to many cities in 2024. We reached more than 100 students in 3 cities, Salvador, São Paulo, and Porto Alegre. And now in 2025, we are running the second edition of the project, expanding its reach and improving our methodologies. This year, we have already been to São Leopoldo, Recife, Aracaju, and Paraty, connecting young people from very diverse regions, from the north to the south of the country. For the first time, we are also reaching Quilombola and indigenous schools. Each city has its own reality, its own challenges, and its own voices ready to be heard. Next slide, please. To make the learning experience more engaging, we also provide education materials to all participants. Each student receives an eco-friendly pen, a custom notebook, stickers, and a printed booklet, Empodera Clima booklet. It's an amazing material, 100% produced by our team, and it's an incredible tool to bring climate education to life in the classroom. It was created specially for the project with clear and accessible information about climate justice and gender, and information accessible to the young people. That's the most important, to be careful about the language to speak with the young ones. We also donate gender and climate books to school libraries so teachers and other students can continue the discussions after the workshop is over. And at the workshop, we used material from Observatório do Clima to another important partner organization work on climate transparency and advocacy in Brazil. Next slide, please. The main goal of the project is to empower teenagers from public schools to understand and discuss the impacts of climate change with a special focus on justice and equality. Which workshop lasts about 100 minutes, which may sound a little bit odd, this number, but it's actually the equivalent of 2 school hours of 50 minutes each. The workshop is divided in 2 main parts. In the first part, students learn the basic concepts of climate change, how it is, why it happens, and how it affects their daily lives and communities, and how it can affect more people than others. And in the second part, we explore climate justice and COP30, the UN Climate Conference that is taking place in Brazil right now. And this second part is the most interactive one. It includes games, quizzes, and debates where students share ideas and imagine possible solutions. What makes this this project truly special is the connection that happens in the classroom. So we called young women from their communities, and many women were in the Mulheres pela Resiliência, another project from Empodera Clima. Many of these students, especially girls, share personal reflections about the environmental challenges they face in their own cities. For example, in the south of Brazil, students talked about the recent floods that devastated their communities. In the northeast, they spoke about landslides and heavy rains that forced families to leave their homes. In São Paulo, they mentioned the extreme heat waves that have become more frequent and intense. And among Quilombola communities, Afro-Brazilian traditional groups, students share stories about how rivers are changing, which affects their access to water and local tradition. For many of them, it was the first time they were invited to talk about this experience and to realize how climate change is deeply connected to their daily lives, their identities, and their sense of belonging. Sometimes students mention many events that are actually related to climate change, but they didn't know that before the workshop. And for many of them, it's the first time they realize that climate change is not something distant, something that already shapes their lives and their futures. They start to see that the climate crisis is not only about the environmental, it's also about inequality, care, and opportunity. Next slide, please. We have seen students leave the workshop feeling more confident, more curious, and more aware of their power to make a difference. And that's exactly what we want, to show that education can be transformative when it combines knowledge, emotion, and participation. It's not only about learning, it's about believing that they can change something, that they can change their community. It's about empowering young people to become leaders in their communities, to take action, inspiring others, and create local solutions for global challenges. To conclude, Empodera Clima nas Escolas, it's not just a project, it's a movement to make climate education inclusive, creative, and accessible to everyone, especially to those whose voices are often missing from environmental discussions. When young people understand their role in the world, they gain the confidence to transform it. Thank you so much for listening and for believing, as we do, that education is one of the most powerful tools to face the climate crisis. Next slide, please. Follow us on Instagram and LinkedIn at Empodera Clima and visit our website, empoderaclima.org. Thank you, and back to you, Lucero.
Thank you, Isabella. It was great to hear about Empodera Clima nas Escolas. I have the pleasure to participate in the first edition, so it's a beautiful project. And thanks again to Transform Education and to Plan International for allowing us to take climate and gender education to the public schools in Brazil. Now we're going to pass to the part of debate. So if we can go to the next slide, please, Hugo. Okay, the round table. So this first question is first for Grace and then for Sarah. Can you tell a little bit more about your organizations and how they work with gender and education? And do your organizations also address climate change? Can you please answer, Grace, if you have the chance, and then we pass the mic to Sarah?
Hello. So, Girls Evolve was established in 2022 with the aim to promote the mindset change of women and girls, focusing on their full potential. It is based in Lumpi, Malawi, where there is a high rate of child marriages, where girls are unable to achieve their full potential, especially in education and economic opportunities. Girls are unaware of their lives, so we saw that there was a gap, and these girls are equipped to be aware of their lives, to know how they can contribute to climate change, because they see the effects of climate change, but they are sidelines. They don't know how they can contribute to climate change. So we provide climate education in local communities. We meet with local leaders. We meet with the women groups. We also, in the schools, also create school clubs so that girls continue going to school by providing them with educational materials such as reusable pads, bags, uniforms, and even access to fees. And these people are able to have their own creative debates, have dramas on how they can be well equipped, and even we invite role models when we have sessions of career talk, so that they can learn more about the importance of education. And also we also address climate change through sustainable farming, which we do with the women group, so that they are involved in groups and they are able to practice sustainable farming, so that they know that they too can contribute to climate change. They also have their own, they're also involved in decision making species when it involves them. So I think that is what we mostly do here in Malawi at Girls Evolve. Thank you.
Okay, awesome. What about you, Sarah? What about your organization and how they address gender and education, and if they also work with climate change?
Thank you so much, and hello everyone. It's 6:30 p.m. where I am, so good evening, good morning, good afternoon to everyone. So YIDP is a youth-led organization, youth-led initiative, and it actually started from a very simple frustration. Where I come from in Africa, I realized that thousands of young Africans study courses like development, international relations, policy, and most times issues like gender, climate change are often embedded into like the curriculum. But I also noticed that after graduation, there seems to be like a massive disconnect between what people actually learn in the classroom and the opportunities available. So people are a bit like lost on how, like, I know these things, I'm aware of the issues, but how can I engage? So our mission basically is to bridge that gap. And we are doing this by curating opportunities, mentorship programs, and for the future, we are incorporating things like podcasts, policy dialogues from people who have gone ahead to translate this theoretical knowledge into something practical, whereby young people can actually connect to global development ecosystem. Now, while our work or this initiative is focused on education and employability, it is very important considering that climate change is not just an environmental issue, but it affects every aspect of our human life. We are intentionally integrating gender and climate across everything we do. And this happens by, sharing fellowships, opportunities that young people can actually engage in. There are available courses that young people can also learn, gain practical knowledge from. And of course, because access to opportunity is shaped not only by education, but also by gender norms, economic inequality, and oftentimes environmental vulnerability. We often hear stories of girls and boys who are in school, and there are things like climate shocks, floods, droughts, displacements. And often we realize that girls and people who are already in vulnerable communities are the ones whose future prospects are mostly disrupted. So even if YIDP is still in a stage where it's growing, because this initiative had only started earlier this year, we are embedding this intersectoral lens even from the very beginning. And of course, our vision aligns with the SDG 4, SDG 5, and SDG 13, which is centered around education, gender equality, and climate action, because we believe that every of these sustainable development goals cannot be achieved without considering the other. It is all interconnected. And from my own personal research, because I have been doing research on climate crisis and how it affects education, and oftentimes I realize that people are worried about the climate science, people are worried about, health and how climate affects health, but also climate really does affect education. And most times people tend to rely on theory, but I'm using geospatial analysis whereby I use GIS to sort of like map, which shows the real picture of areas that are actually really vulnerable. And of course, by doing this, it actually shows clear data that climate shocks do not just damage school buildings, but it also reinforces the inequality that already exists. So we are seeing that in climate affected regions like in Africa, like Nigeria, Zimbabwe and other countries like that, girls are often the ones who are mostly pulled out of school, and for some, they will almost never return. So climate crisis is not just an environmental issue, it is a structural one. And this is why IDP exists, and this is also why my passion has brought me to this point. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you so much, Grace and Sarah. Your work is amazing and it's truly inspiring. So we want to continue having conversations with you, and we are glad to be in the same platform in Transformative Education. We are all members from Transformative Education, so thank you so much for that. Now, can I go to the next slide, Hugo, please? Okay, so now this is a question open for all the participants. So Runa, Isabella, Safar, you as well, Sarah and Grace. Well, and I can also answer. Why do you think that this is important to talk about gender transformative education and climate change? Why does it matter? I think, well, Grace and Sarah talk a little bit about this. I don't know if other participants want to talk a little bit about that. The floor is wherever feel comfortable.
I can break the ice for us. But thank you so much
thanks,
for
Runa.
this, Lucero. I think that's a great question, and I think for me the word here is really talking like transformation. It's transformative. So when we talk about gender transformative education, we're not just talking about like including women or like adding a gender module to the curriculum. We're talking about changing the way education itself is designed. So to question unequal power relations, to bring different knowledges to the center, and to empower young people, especially girls, to see themselves as agents of change in the climate crisis. Because climate change doesn't affect everyone in the same way as I spoke previously, and this is why Infodere exists. And women and girls, and particularly in the global south, are facing higher risks, and they are often excluded from this conversation. So having a gender transformative education is a powerful solution to this, because education becomes this bridge between those realities and the ability to act on these problems. So a gender transformative approach to climate education means teaching not only the science of climate change, but also the social systems behind it, why certain communities are more vulnerable, why decision-making spaces are unequal, and how local knowledge and often held by women can guide this adaptation and resilience. So, well, yes, when girls and young women gain access to that kind of education, it has a ripple effect. They're more likely to participate in the community leadership, to advocate for equitable policies, to create projects, to drive innovations. And it's not just about this learning process, it's about all of the effects and how it shifts who gets to lead the responses. So I think that would be that for me.
That was a great answer, Bruna. I totally agree with you. And I think that's the motive where we are in Empodera Clima. We really want to bring transformative education to everyone in Latin America. We're focused in Brazil, but we also have impact in Latin America. And I think we think that we can close that gender gap in climate action through education. Anyone of the participants have any other answer? Sapphire, the floor is yours.
Yes, thank you so much. I really want to echo pretty much all of what Bruna has shared because I think that it really encapsulates why gender transformative climate education is so important. When we just started talking about GTE and its linkages with climate change, we were some of the only people I remember in collaboration with Empodera Clima in 2021, right around the time of COP, we put out a statement identifying the linkages between these two core issues. And one thing that I really want to touch on is the fact that with gender transformative education, it also answers that question of whose knowledge is shared and whose knowledge is valued within education systems. And really bringing that focus into Indigenous knowledge and the knowledge from folks within the global south. I come to this space as someone who is from the Caribbean, where our experience of climate change is often dismissed or undervalued, despite the fact that we are on the front lines of the climate crisis. I'm thinking about our allies in Jamaica today who are experiencing the impacts of Hurricane Melissa that has destroyed not just communities, but learning spaces. And so when we talk about gender transformative education, when we talk about shifting these hierarchies of power, when we talk about censoring Indigenous knowledge, again, it is so important to ensure that we are bringing all these voices to the table so that when we go into decision-making spaces, our solutions are also reflective of these communities as well and of their lived reality. So I really loved what you shared there, Bruna. And I also wanted to add just really quickly that when we educate young women and girls about climate change, we see that it has a ripple effect in transforming their communities because they take that knowledge, that resilience, that empowerment that they feel when they understand the climate justice, when they understand these solutions, when they're able to innovate and they're valued for the thoughts that they have to share. And it just has this ripple effect and this transformative power in the way that it is able to impact our communities. And I'm sure that you all have seen that through Empodera Nasa Escolas, just the transformative power that your work has had.
Okay, well, thank you, Safar. That answer was amazing. I was really inspired. I'm so glad that we are part of this network. Well, Sarah, I see that you have your hand raised.
Oh yeah, I just wanted to add as well to what Sapphire also just shared, which is really interesting perspective. And for me, considering that we're in 2025, I think it's important that we do no longer see climate crisis as just an environmental crisis. It's not just about the scientific aspect of the climate, but it's also about the educational, the social, and the political aspect of climate change. Of course, gender transformative education goes beyond just getting girls into the classrooms. Of course, that's very important, but we also need to question how we can transform the system that actually keeps these girls in education. We also need to question what actually determines whose voices matter in this kinds of conversation. What kind of knowledge actually counts and whose future actually gets prioritized. So when we think about gender transformative education, these are the questions that I believe that are important for us to ponder upon. And of course, when floods, heat, natural disasters, conflicts, things like this happen, and families are forced into displacement, and for some, they have to make really hard choices when they choose between education and survival. I think that is very unfair to people, that you have to choose between education and survival, because education should also be a part of survival for any young person, especially for girls. But of course, when education systems are gender transformative, it actually does two things. The first thing I wrote here is that it gives both girls and boys, in terms of empowerment, the skills and the agency to question inequality. So of course, when gender transformative education is embedded into the system, girls and boys are able to think critically, they are able to question the inequality, they are able to ask why. And by asking why, they begin to find answers, they begin to question the power play involved in this. And of course, it also builds climate resilience. I strongly believe that countries should not always wait for climate disasters to hit before taking action. But it's very important that resilience actions are put in place so that people can easily adapt when these kinds of issues happen. So it is really a systemic issue. When we think about gender transformative education, we have to question the system that makes the decision, because of course, when we empower young people, they are able to better act, they are able to be innovative, they are able to lead in times of crisis. That's why when I go for climate events, or when I'm opportune to be able to listen to climate events, I'm really glad that I see a lot of young people now taking up space to speak for this issue. And I believe strongly that it's because of the power of gender transformative education that people are now able to question this, problems, and also come up with innovative solutions that can help them. So yes, that's what I wanted to add. Thank you.
Well, thank you so much, Sarah. So all the first speakers can speak. I think Isa, can you answer and maybe not to expand so much, so we have enough time?
Yes, I think just adding with all the other girls said, because it's the importance of put the two things together. The two issues are deeply interconnected. We can't see one without the other. If we see just the climate change without the gender transformative education, we can find an effective solution. And recognizing unequal impacts as to women, girls, and marginalized gender groups often bears a disproportionate burden, particularly in vulnerable communities. So it's important to gender transformative education helps raise awareness about these inequalities and encourage solutions that consider everyone's needs. And when we empowering solutions through education, we are educating people, especially young people, to question these stereotypes, to question and promote inclusivity, strengths their ability to contribute to climate solutions in their community. So we need everyone to question and help find a solution that are considering how it affects everyone. So I think that's the most important thing to put work, that it's very difficult because it's not only one people that can find the solution. I think it's everybody. We need to think that everyone matters. And for example, in Padera nas escolas, when we go in each schools, we learn something different, and we can build something stronger with each schools that we go. We offer something, but we receive something back too. So it's very important to hear the young people.
That's amazing. Well, thank you. And I'm sure that you feel great after going to every event, that it's so tiring, but you feel the reward, that all your effort, you are seeing those kids so excited about learning about climate change, learning about gender, and how, I don't know, it's just unbelievable. I think in order to not to pass too much, maybe Grace, you have your hands raised, just like a brief answer, so we can pass to the last question.
Okay, I agree with what everybody has said, and gender transformative education in climate is very important, because even when climate happens, the women, girls, and how men and boys are affected is totally different. Because when climate crisis happens, that means, like in my community, it's the women that fetch firewood, they fetch for water. That means if the wells dry up, they have to go further to go and fetch for those items. So if they're not a part of the solution, then it becomes a challenge, because they'll still be acting as victims, not knowing how they can contribute to the climate crisis. So it's very important to have gender transformative education, so that these women, they also contribute to the solution. They are part of the solution, and they bring a way out so that we challenge these inequalities and make sure that change community is achieved. Yeah, so thank you.
Okay, awesome, thank you. And Akansha, we are going to leave the questions for the end, so we are going to pass to the last question to the speakers, and then we move on. Then Hugo, can you pass to the next slide? Oh yeah, it doesn't matter. So here's the question. What do you think that is important to talk about? No. Okay. What message would you give to young people out there trying to work on the intersection of education, gender, and climate change? How they can get more involved? This is a question for all the speakers, for Bruna, Isabella, Safara, Sarah, and Grace. Sorry, if anyone wants to go ahead.
Oh, Sarah opened her mic, so I'll let her start.
No, go ahead, it's fine. I could speak after you.
Okay, so I think I'll be very brief in the interest of time for us. But what I really like this types of questions, and what I would say is that I encourage everyone to, start where you are with what you have. Do not wait for the perfect opportunity, for the perfect organization, the perfect moment. But despite this encouragement to just do it, I would say to not do it alone. So it can be someone from your community, it can be someone from your family, and you would be really surprised looking up online, sending emails, and reaching out through DMs, how open people are to help, to collaborate, and to, give their knowledge, or even a bit of their time, to assist you in moving your project, your ideas, your initiative overall further. So I think that would be my main thing. So if you're a student, you might start like bringing climate conversation into your school, your university. You can collaborate with other colleagues, and create a organization inside your school. And many times, one important thing is that you do not need to create a new organization to act on something. There are many great organizations that need support, and that are very willing to take on all your time, expertise, and eager to learn and to act. So if you can, please engage with any of them, send a DM, even if there's not an open selective process or anything like that. Like, raise your hands, make sure that your voice is being heard by then, and you're reaching out. And I'm sure that you'll find spaces to act on the problem.
Great, Bruna. Sarah, you're next. You have something to say.
Yeah, thank you, everyone. It's been a great conversation. My biggest message to anyone who would, want to go into this kind of opportunity is, you don't need permission to start. Just start where you are, really. And I think about a scenario: if you come across a fire and you realize that the fire is going to hurt you or hurt other people, you don't need someone else's permission to turn off the fire. You just go ahead and turn it off because you see it as an issue. So that's the mindset that we should have, or young people should have. Don't wait until you know all the answers, because you'd actually never know all the answers. I think about organizations who have gone on to last for like 10, 20, 6, 5 years. They started with just something small, but then as they continued and remained consistent, they started expanding their horizon and things like that. So if you care about gender, if you care about education, if you care about the climate, start with what's in front of you. If you enjoy documentary, do that, document stories, Sometimes I try to write like blogs, posts. That's also a way for me to contribute as well. So don't wait until you get like a global opportunity. You can start from where you are. If you like to organize dialogues or debates or just gather data, that's something as well. If you also like to volunteer, that's something as well. So don't just wait and say, oh, it's until I get to the United Nations, that's when I would engage. No, the only way you get to the United Nations is if you started from where you are already, because they will need your story to amplify your voice, right? So, of course, just bear in mind that the intersection is wide and there is no, like, no one is putting you in a box when it comes to issues like this. There's so many ways you can get engaged. So, your contribution counts, like any little way, no matter how small, no matter how big. So, that is my own message. Thank you.
Wow, that was amazing, Sarah. And yeah, about documentary, like it can be so fun as well. Like if you are into the hobby to taking pictures or recording videos, that can be something really valuable. And maybe, and not many people know, but sometimes the data that is used it in big organization is, I don't know, it's collected by civil society. So you can help to several transformative process. So go ahead and do what you like so you can continue doing a good job. Safar, you want to talk?
Yes, I love all the answers that have been shared already, and I feel like I don't have much to share. But I really like that notion of start with what's in front of you, and I love that you highlighted that example of digital storytelling. So folks taking photos. There's an incredible organization in Jamaica called Girls Care that does that work, where they take photos of people experiencing the climate crisis, and they do this really cool photojournalism that also contributes to, as you mentioned, UN reports and things like that, to document the climate crisis. But I just wanted to talk on imposter syndrome, which is something that young people face really often, and that is something that holds people back from engaging in this work because you feel like you're not a climate scientist or a climate expert, but your lived reality and your lived experience is an expertise in and of itself, and your story is one that needs to be told. So I would always say to any young person who is interested in climate and you have that passion and you're seeing the connections, you're seeing the flooding in your communities, you're experiencing the extreme heat, talk about it, even if it's just to people in your community, transcribing this information into a way that is acceptable and engaging to them. That is your superpower, that is your strength, and I would never discourage you from doing that. Just to echo what the girls were saying earlier, it has this multiplier effect where even though your action may seem small, it can be really transformative. And just to add on to that theme of transformative, there are really cool networks of young people working on climate justice, global, regional, local networks that you can be a part of. Ours is just one example, Transform Education. So if you are interested in gender transformative climate education, we are a global network that is always looking for new members to see how we can support you, connect you with multilateral organizations, support your work through resource mobilization, skills, and capacity building. So we are just one avenue that you can connect to, but there are so many other networks where you can learn skills, connect with others, and amplify the work that you're doing.
That was amazing so far. So before we go to the questions, that do you think that we can take a picture? Ugo, do you think you can help with us? Because I know Safar is kind of short of time, so I don't want to to hold her more.
Yes, absolutely. Carolina, do you want to do it? Thank you.
If you want, if anyone feels comfortable to open their cameras, we would love to record this moment. As Sarah was saying, recording what's happening, and this is one of the moments we are here in a conversation talk about transformative education, gender, and climate change. So this is one of the avenues to go ahead and do it in your community.
Okay, on three, everyone says catalyst with a big smile on their faces. Okay, 1, 2, 3. Amazing.
Okay, beautiful. Thank you.
Thank you.
Sorry, sorry, I mute myself. So now we are opening the floor for some questions. We don't have so much time, but if anyone from the audience want to make a question to one of these magnificent speakers, or in overall, we can see how we can answer. Like, the floor is open. Well, you can either write it on the chat or say, or you raise your hand. And if you don't have any question, it's okay. Maybe you are just so surprised by everything that you have learned that you don't have any question right now, and then you're going to think in your house. That's also okay. So let's see. I don't see any questions on the Alessa. Okay, we are going in the count of 10. If no, we can. Thank you. Oh, okay. I think there's any question. Okay, no questions. So I think it was a great time for you all. So for me, I don't know about the speakers. I don't know about the attendance, but I have a great time and I learned so much. So I want to thank you everyone for being here present. And I don't know if any of the speakers have any last word I want to say, but I'm really grateful for this opportunity.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Lucero, Sapphire, Isabella, Bruna, Sarah, Grace, all of the speakers. It was amazing to have you here. And I'm sure that it's a beautiful partnership we're doing. And
Oh,
you're
thank
gonna
you.
be-
And thank you. Oh, if you want to share the last slide with the Catalyst Now slide, so they can also learn more about these social entrepreneurships network and
Yes,
be done.
absolutely. Feel more than welcome to join Catalyst Now. You can email me and we can also explain how we work. It's free. It's a place of co-creation, a place where members bring ideas such as what's happening here right now, and we just connect. It's a beautiful spot, and we are more than happy to welcome anyone that is interested into it. And you can follow our sessions on our YouTube. We're gonna post the session on YouTube as well, so it's gonna be live for you. And yeah, happy to be here. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Bye. Take care.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.